and welcome to the Webcast for Tuesday, July 28th. I'm South Ops meteorologist Jonathan O'Brien. We continue to have a shallow but persistent marine layer this morning with low clouds, again overspreading some coastal and coastal valley areas. There is also a batch of some high cirrus clouds pivoting across southeast California as we remain on the very outer fringe of some monsoon moisture well to our east. But with an increasingly dry air mass in place, sunny skies will be the story today. Speaking of that dry air mass, we're starting to see it show up in the observations. Take a look at our maximum humidity values since midnight last night. Recoveries were still good in a lot of spots, especially the lower elevations, but we definitely saw a lot more in the way of fair to locally poor recoveries across the interior than what we've been seeing lately, and that's going to become more prevalent as we go through the week. Here's a look at today's forecast highs. With some moderating influences from weak troughing offshore, our temperatures remain warm, but not excessively so, near average for this time of year in central California and slightly above in southern California. Similar temperatures are expected for tomorrow as well, so still warm, but nothing brutal by any means. As we look at our upper air maps, the forecast for later this week remains on track. While the ridge of high pressure over the southwest will be moderated by the offshore troughing for another couple of days, all indications remain that this ridge will shift westward and become very strong by the end of this week and the weekend, setting the stage for our hottest conditions of the season. Temperatures will start to rise on Thursday as the center of high pressure shifts closer, with upper 90s and triple digits becoming more common in the valleys, but will still keep the more extreme heat at bay for another day. But here's a look at the forecast highs by Saturday, which will probably be the hottest day overall, and it continues to look like some very significant heat, with high temperatures of 90s to near 100 even in the lower mountains, 104 to 112 in the valleys, 108 to 118 in the high desert, and 115 to 125 in the low desert. Sunday will be similarly hot with just some very slight cooling. A little more substantial cooling is likely early next week, but temperatures will still remain above normal, and some models are even showing another round of renewed warming by the middle of next week, though that is far less certain. We will also see lowering humidity as the peak of the heat sets in. Minimum humidity will drop into the 10 to 20% range away from the coastal areas for the rest of this week and the weekend, driest in central California. Some single-digit readings will be likely, especially later this week in the usual drier areas and certainly in the deserts. And perhaps more notably, overnight recoveries will progressively worsen as well across most of the interior, with very long burn periods developing. One piece of good news, and this is typical in a high-pressure pattern, is that winds will be on the light side this week. Local and terrain effects will generally dominate. While some locally breezy conditions can be expected during the afternoons, no organized significant wind events are expected. In terms of monsoon activity, it's not a favorable pattern for moisture, as the center of high pressure will become too strong and too close to draw moisture into our region. Little or no shower or thunderstorm activity is expected through early next week. Rain and thunderstorm chances may increase mid to late next week, but that's a ways out and the signals are still pretty mixed on that. With the increasingly hot and dry weather, dead fuel moistures will be on steady falling trends this week. This pattern will be supportive of declines in live fuel moistures as well. ERCs will likely rise to the 97th percentile or higher across several PSAs by this weekend. This is the observed and projected ERC trend for South Ops as a whole, and you can see that we're trending up and likely trending towards our highest values of the season by a wide margin by this weekend. So in terms of fire potential, it is definitely going to be on the uptrend. We'll keep an elevated probability for new large fires today and for the next couple of days, although even on these pretty run-of-the-mill elevated days, we've been getting a good number of fires of a few hundred to a few thousand acres across the region, albeit nothing that has gone really big so far. However, by later in the week, we will see our highest probabilities of the year so far, and we expect to move into the high category by Friday. Even though we're not concerned about lightning or strong wind, historically these very hot and dry patterns have produced some of our most significant fire events. For the Friday through Sunday period, high-risk triggers for a critical burn environment have been added for PSAs that are expected to have the best overlap of hot temperatures with low RHs and poor recoveries, and where it has already been demonstrated that live fuel conditions are at or approaching critical levels and capable of contributing strongly to fire spread. So again, things are already picking up, and we expect that trend to accelerate into the end of the week. That's it for today's webcast. Thanks for joining us. The next one will be on Wednesday, July 29th.